Hey everyone, Aaron Stewart from the Little Black Couch. Gonna do something kind of weird today, like super weird, but we're gonna do it anyway. I've been asked about podcasts a lot lately, which is kind of weird because I don't really. I, I podcast about golf, but being an entrepreneur and all that kind of stuff, I got a lot of interesting questions about it. And so I have decided today to throw all caution to the wind and just broadcast live as I record a podcast for my golf group. So it's going to be odd. And I've got a back camera set up. It's going to be crazy. So let's get, and you get to kind of see how I run things a little bit. So let's go ahead and run the intro and we'll get right into it. Well, that took a while to click over, didn't it? Okay, this is going to be some insanity. So I'm going to quickly show you the back. Let's say hi to Buddy real quick. Oh, he's not even on today. Oh, there he is, a little bit. I bumped the camera, so it's not looking very good. Okay, so here goes nothing. Here is an example of the back cam. Hello. So I just want to show you, I've got my mic here, and I've got my 3 screens set up here. I've got 2 external screens, and then I have my laptop screen right there. I actually use, depending on how much research I've done for a podcast, I may use all 3 screens. Okay, so that's kind of the first thing. Ignore the lights. That's really for the green screen and all that behind me, which we're not using today. But, all right, here we go. So how I do a podcast, I'll bring up my screen real quick so everybody can see it. Where is that one? I believe that it is, oh, it's in the extras here. Okay. So I'll bring this screen up right now, and that's my screen up here. You'll see in the back cam here. So that's the screen up here. So I always run my audio, record my audio up there. It's just easier to look up and see it. So I'm going to bring up my Audacity app, and I just use Audacity and I just record right into it. So File, Open Recent, and I'm going to open my DAG podcast. Actually, you know what? Let me change the screen so you can see that. Okay, so I am going to bring up, if I'm going to go to Audacity, and then I am going to File, Open Recent, and then I just save. You can save like programs. So this DAG podcast.aup has my intro and outro already saved in there. So I'm going to bring it up, and it's going to have all kinds of stuff on there. So this is, if you watched the training from yesterday, this is what I did. This is what I did yesterday. Okay, come on. All right. So this is what I did yesterday. So this is my intro. This is my outro. The rest of this I don't need, because that was yesterday's show. So I'm going to cancel out of those. So it's totally clean. I've got my intro here, and I'll play that. Boom. If it plays. Yeah, okay, so that's my intro. My outro's here, just so you know what we're talking about. Here, yeah, outro's here. So it's always towards the end of it, at the end of the show. I do two things when I record a podcast. Okay, so there it is. Okay, so now I'm going to go and I'm going to mute both of these tracks because I don't want that to record on my new recording. And then I just start with an intro. Okay, so I'm going to go off here, and now I'm going to go to the back. Well, I'll just go and hit record, and I am going to record. Let me make sure that record, testing. So, okay, so my mic isn't working. My mic is not working because I'm broadcasting live. This is going to be interesting. So how do I do this? Yeah, I don't know how to do this. I guess maybe I'll take the audio from, I'll go ahead and record. I'll just take the audio from whatever and we'll see what comes out of it. So I'll hit record here and we'll start with the podcast. I'll just pull it out of this live when we're done. No, that would stink. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to, hold on. Let's see. We're going to do something very, very bad, very quickly. You know what? No, I'm not. I'm just going to do it. Okay, so I'm going to record and I'll do the intro real quick and then I'm going to get rid of the screen because I have to look at some stats. And we're just going to go live and do this podcast and let's see how it goes. So my kids are recording me. So it's not bringing anything in though. See, I'm just going to do the built-in microphone. Testing, 1, 2, 3, nope. Display, Yeti. Testing. Can any of them bring in anything? I guess because I'm going live, I can't. Testing. Oh, what about this? Testing, 1, 2. It's all being hijacked. Dang it. It's all being hijacked by testing, 1, 2, 3 by the program here. So, all right, I'm just going to record and I'll take it off this program. So this is what I do. I'll go ahead and record right here and we'll just go. Jordan Spieth has had a very tough year this year and nobody really knows why. He had a couple interviews. We've talked about it. I've looked at some of the stats. And so we're going to dig deep into the data and kind of figure out what Jordan Spieth needs to do to get a little bit better and hopefully make it to the Tour Championship. So let's tee it up. Okay, so that's my intro. And I'm going to go to the back cam now and get rid of this screen. So here's the back cam. Okay, so I've got that recorded here. Now I'm going to mute that one and then I'm going to start again. And this is going to be the whole recording. I'm going to bring up my screen here so I don't see myself. And then I am going to bring up my screen here and then we're going to record. Here goes, here goes nothing. I guess I do need to record here. Here goes nothing. Aaron Stewart from Data Access Golf. Thanks for joining me today here on the podcast. I appreciate it very, very much. So we've got the Northern Trust on and going. We've had some prominent players already be basically eliminated from the playoffs. You've got Bubba Watson and some of those folks that we've gotten used to see in the playoffs didn't make the cut. So essentially they have absolutely no possible way to move up high enough where they can get into the next round of the playoffs. So goodbye, right? Goodbye to all of them. One guy that I've been really interested in watching this year, and I think probably many, based on listening patterns on the show, there's been a lot of people who have been very interested in as to why Jordan Spieth has not been playing well this year. And it's been interesting in Greensboro last week, right? He had 2 really good rounds and then completely blew up in the 3rd round. So those of us who follow that kind of thing are probably a little nervous for Jordan Spieth this week because after 2 very, very good rounds, he now goes in, to this 3rd round and we're wondering what in the world's going to go on, right? He was sitting there in 2nd place right behind Dustin Johnson and now, what's going to happen? Early results haven't been great, right? Last time I looked at the scoreboard, he was kind of struggling a little bit. A bogey and then a birdie to get back to even and then a double bogey and you just kind of like freak out a little bit for the guy. So right now it looks like Jordan Spieth is +3 for the day. So again, trending really poorly in this 3rd round. So I listened to a couple of his interviews and some of the things that he's saying. And Jordan Spieth is happy to talk about his golf swing, but he does it. He's got his own little idiosyncrasies when he talks about what's going on. And he's really been mentioning that it's all about his ball striking. So I wanted to pull up a couple things. We're going to look at the stats from not only this week, but we're going to look at his stats for the year and kind of see how those kind of compare to what's been going on. Now, his putter really came on and he was super hot there for a while. But it's amazing how much it's cooled off as of late. For For a while there, he was leading the tour in putting. He's now dropped to fourth. Still a great putting year, but he's dropped to fourth. But listen to some of the. This is for the first 2 rounds of the Northern Trust. Okay, so strokes gained off the tee. He almost got 2 strokes off the field. Okay, that's off the tee. That has been a real problem for Jordan Spieth this year. Is off the tee, but he almost picked up 2 strokes in that first round. Here's the interesting thing: he lost 0.07 strokes to the field in putting. Right, that's his game. But it still was good enough to get him off really well. Let's see, he had off, so tee to green, he was 2.4. So his strokes gained total, he actually lost to the field, right, in putting. His strokes gained total for that first round was 2.39. Okay, so that's what got him in the clubhouse and got him about 5 strokes behind the lead. Then yesterday he goes out and goes crazy, right? Goes crazy low. And shoots a nice little 64. So 67, 64. He only had one bogey yesterday, and he had 8 birdies, right? A 64. So now let's look at his game. And this is what's crazy. Now, strokes gained off the tee was, a real benefit to him in the first round. This round, he lost over 0.6 strokes to the field off the tee. So he lost his driver. His consistent play with the driver was gone. His approach to the green stats went up to almost 3 strokes over the field when it was basically 0 the previous day. And then around the green was basically the same, 0.6 round 1 to 0.3 round 2. But here's what's interesting. His putting, right? He lost 0.07 strokes to the field. He almost picked up 4 strokes on the field putting yesterday. So he's talking about being more consistent. There is nothing consistent about Jordan Spieth's game right now. Nothing. It's insanity. Strokes, well, if you go tee to green, this was consistent, right? He was 2.4 the round 1, 2.3 round 2, so that's consistent. But he picked up over six strokes on the field by having a worse driver and a way better putter, which kind of is Jordan Spieth's game. Right? And I know all of us who play a lot of golf know that, golf is like herding cats, right? You can't get it all together at the same time. But day to day, to have a tour pro struggling this much with so many different aspects of his game is insanity to me. And then if you look at what's going on today, wow. I mean, he's strokes gained off the tee, basically nothing. Approach to the green, nothing. Around the green, he's losing 1.5 strokes. Putting, he's losing a stroke. And strokes gained tee to green, he's losing 1.5 strokes. To the field, so far in this round, right, through the first 9, he has lost 2.5 strokes to the field. Unbelievable. And then if you look at his driving accuracy, he was 71% round 1, 50% round 2. He's 85% today. 85%. That's his weakness, and he still can't get it done. 3 over par so far to the day, for the day. So some of the things that and if we pull up his stats then for the year, these are quite telling as well. I haven't gone back to see in Jordan's heyday. I did it a couple months ago, but I mean, just listen to this. Strokes gained off the tee. We know he's weak there. He's losing half a stroke, an average per round, right? A strokes gain approach to the green, he's losing 0.24 strokes. So he's 184th on tour, strokes gain off the tee. He's 155th strokes gain approach to the green. Now strokes gain around the green, 0.332. It doesn't sound very good, but it puts him 18th on tour for the year. So very solid there. Strokes gain putting, we know I kind of gave it away, but we know that he's been leading the tour for part of the year. Now he sits at 4th at 0.775 strokes per round that he picks up on the field. And then strokes gained tee to green, he's losing 0.4 strokes. That leaves him at 160th. And then strokes gained total puts him at 74th. Literally, if it wasn't for around the green and strokes gained putting, Jordan Spieth may be one of the worst performing golfers of the year, which is really hard to believe. that around the green and strokes gained putting, he has been relying on those so very much this year. Every other part of his game doesn't look good. So this idea of approach that he's feeling more consistent with his ball striking, well, the data doesn't hold that out. He's 155th. That his driver's more consistent. He's 184th. It's pretty tough to see anything being more positive right now. Hard to imagine. So that leads us to the next question, and this is where I really wanted to get to with this. Some of the things that Jordan Spieth said yesterday about his game were, and then to see how he is so inconsistent now, has been really fascinating, because he has, for a number of years, been very consistent. And now he's talking about getting confidence. He's talking about trying to be more consistent, and he realizes that he's not. And so the thought then becomes, why, when we are not consistent and when we are consistent, what's the difference? And this is where it becomes pretty simple, as far as I'm concerned, and as far as those who fall with, in line with Fred Shoemaker and his philosophy, is that when we are inconsistent, it's essentially just it's a natural consequence of not playing your game and being natural about it. Okay, so when we talk about propelling something, when we talk about being natural on the course, we're talking about making sure that we are not consciously trying to control anything. And when you hear Jordan Spieth talk, and in these interviews, he talks about swing thoughts. He talks about what he's thinking. He talks about trying to stay in the moment. But when he says staying in the moment, he's thinking some kind of a swing thought. And when you go to the golf course every single day, and you start to warm up, and you are just looking for some kind of swing thought, or some sort of something or other that's going to get you around for that day, then you're in big trouble. Right? If you cannot just trust yourself and let it go, then you're in big trouble. Because let's say you find a swing thought, and this is how swing thoughts work. You find a swing thought that's super, super interesting, and it gets you out of your head because you're trying to focus on whatever the swing thought is, right? Whether it's your weight transfer, whether it's your rotation, whether it's making sure you don't roll to the outside of your back foot, whatever it is, if that swing thought is so very interesting that it pulls you out of your head trying to control yourself and allows you to kind of hang out with what's going on there, you will play wonderful golf. And then we all assume that it was the swing thought that was making us play wonderful golf, instead of thinking it was just us being awesome playing wonderful golf. Okay, we do that in life all the time too. We consciously try to get in there and change, make ourselves do stuff when we already know how to do it very, very well, like in a conversation. Instead of just sitting there and listening to somebody else talk to us, we're in our heads thinking of what we're going to say in rebuttal or to top the story or do whatever. And that is a horrible way to live. It's a horrible way to play golf as well. So when we get out there and we're playing, and this is the thing that concerns me about Jordan Spieth and concerns me about a lot of amateur golfers, as you'll get out there and you'll happen to stumble upon a swing thought that works really, really well for a day or two. And you think, you know what, I've got it. As soon as you think you've got it, based on a swing thought, you are going to be sorely disappointed within the next few days, if not the next few hours. Because eventually your mind is not as interested in that swing thought anymore. It does not pull you out of your head, right? So you think you've got the swing thought, but now you just think that the swing thought doesn't work anymore. Well, it never worked in the first place. All the swing thought did was get you out of your head and focused on something that was real and happening in the moment to be present to. That's what was working. It wasn't the swing thought. You were working, not the swing thought. And that's the big difference here. Okay, so when you go to the golf course or when you're starting to warm up, don't try to come up with some kind of a swing thought to, you can try to come up with a swing thought, but let's recommend that, let's just say that the swing thought isn't the thing. The thing that's the thing, can we say it that way, is pulling us out of our head so we're not consciously trying to control our golf swing. Okay, so it's being so focused on a target that's all that you see in your mind's eye. Or seeing a couple blades of grass that are moving in the breeze, and that's all you're focusing on. It's nothing other than that. And I'm going to refer back again to something that Fred Shoemaker did with me that finally drove this home for me. And I've talked about it in previous podcasts, but it's so important that I'm going to keep repeating it. He saw me getting stuck. He saw me trying to think my way through a golf swing. And I was having a hard time. I was hitting some real clunkers. And so he stopped me and he said, look, I want you to start adding numbers. I'm going to call out numbers, and I want you to start adding numbers as you're swinging the golf club. And then you have to tell me the total of those numbers before you hit the golf ball, right? And so I would get set up and I would get ready to go, and he would say, and then I would say, go. And then he would start yelling out numbers. So 2, 3, 7. And then I would have to say 12. I would have to swing the golf club and say 12 somewhere in my swing before I could look up and see where the ball was flying. It was amazing to me how well I could hit the golf ball without having a single thought in my mind except just simple math problems. And because my brain was so wrapped up in trying to solve this math problem, it didn't have the ability to try to control my golf swing. And then my golf swing became very, very good. So I hope that makes sense. When we have a tip, or we have some kind of a tip that works on the range or starts to work on the golf course, it's not the tip. It's the fact that we've taken our mind and put it somewhere that's so interesting that we've distracted it. And we now are allowing our natural ability to take care of itself and just play really good golf. So that's the difference. And I hope that makes some sense. That's what I'm so worried about with Jordan Spieth. He seems to be going from one swing thought to another swing thought, and the swing thought's really interesting, so he plays well for a couple days, and now the swing thought doesn't work anymore because he's just not interested in it anymore. He thinks he's still using some kind of swing thought, but really it's just not working, and now he's back up at his head and he's trying to control his golf swing consciously, and he's 3 over par through 9 holes. Right? So whatever he works on during the week seems to be okay for a couple days and seems to be interesting enough for a couple days, but that third day, it just doesn't work anymore. And now I'm sure that his confidence and he's subconsciously worried about it and consciously worried about it and all that kind of stuff. And his swing thoughts and his triggers and all that aren't working like they used to, and it's got to be madly frustrating for him, especially for somebody who has been so good for so long. But anyway, so that's kind of what I think's going on with him. I feel horrible for him, honestly. I feel really bad for Jordan Spieth because he is such a good player and has shown us to be such a good player for so very long that to now suffer through this kind of inconsistency, it's got to be frustrating. And I think it's frustrating for all of us who want Jordan Spieth to do well and know that naturally he has the ability to do unbelievable things on a golf course and that he's just not performing up to our expectation or his. And it's just because he is now in his head. The ability is there. He's proven it. It's when he used to tap into it, he was unstoppable. So it really is just a situation with a Jordan Spieth or any of those higher echelon players that when they get in their head and they try to control their natural, wonderful ability with the conscious mind, it becomes a total disaster. And you can kind of hear in his mind too. This really bothered me. I heard this actually in a podcast that Fred Shoemaker did a few months ago. I think it was on a show called The Brainbuster. I can't remember the guy's name. He's out of the UK, but it was a really cool interview, and I listened to that. And Fred talked about how most tour pros know that for them to make a major swing change, it's going to take about a year for them to actually kind of beat it into themselves, right? Just work so hard, just brute force, change the way they hit a golf ball. And that is such a disastrous way to do it. Now, they have the time and the money and the resources to blow off a year of their lives in order to make a swing change. And we remember all the swing changes that Tiger Woods made. He was just pounding in these super unnatural moves to try to become really good at golf. And it's sad that there's so many people that play that way, where we as amateurs, we're probably not going to practice as much golf in our entire lifetime that the tour pros can do in a year. So the chances of us doing a brute force swing change are impossible. For an amateur to make a really important swing change by brute force using the conscious mind and repetition is impossible. It will take you a lifetime. But if you tap into what we do naturally, and that's that propelling motion that we talk about, and that's why Fred Shoemaker has us throw clubs and throw a golf ball and all that, so we can feel how our bodies naturally move. Well, if we allow our natural abilities and what we're doing naturally to overcome the bad habits and the things that we've been doing wrong in the golf swing, that's the kind of learning that can happen quickly. That's the kind of learning that really everybody should be using, but especially amateurs. If multi-million-dollar tour pros want to go out there and waste a year of their lives brute force putting in a move in their golf swing that's not natural to them, knock yourselves out. You've got the money and time to do it. But we amateurs don't. So the quickest way for us to learn and get really, really good at golf is just allowing ourselves to be awesome, figure out what it is that's different between our golf swing and what makes us awesome, and basically let our natural abilities overcome our bad habits and become super good golfers. It's the only way that you can do it in a short amount of time. It's the only way you can do it. It's the only way you can change your golf swing over a winter. You're not really changing anything. You're just removing everything that's bad and tapping into what you already do naturally that's wonderful and balanced and natural and just awesome. Anyway, so that's a bit of a tirade, I know, but man, some of the stuff that Jordan Spieth was saying today in his interviews, and yesterday, I guess, in his interviews, and watching him again play poorly today is like super frustrating, because he has all the ability he's ever going to need. And to try to get in there and brute force change anything is just ghastly, that he would waste so much time. I mean, he's married now. He's a family man. I mean, if he tapped into his natural ability, he could have more time with his family and less time at the range pounding balls, trying to manufacture some kind of a change in a golf swing that doesn't need to happen. Oh, anyway. Well, that is the show today. Thank you for joining me. I hope that you are enjoying the Northern Trust. It will be interesting to see who gets in and who doesn't. Just a quick gaze at the leaderboard. You've got Patrick Reed with a 2-stroke lead over Brandt Snedeker, Dustin Johnson, Troy Merritt, which I really thought he was going to fall off. Shot a 70 yesterday, so it's cool to see him still hanging in there. John Rahm, Danny Willett, we haven't seen him in a long time. Max Homa, right? He was like going to lose his card had he not won. Oh, yuck. There's Ian Poulter, yucky yuck. There's Jordan Spieth still sitting there at +3. It's got him tied for 14th. Webb Simpson with a little 67 today. So shot up the leaderboard, picked up, 20 spots in FedEx Cup rankings. So anyway, thanks for joining me today. I super appreciate it. Please send in your comments. I have gotten a few that I need to work back on and answer some questions, but I appreciate your comments. I appreciate your questions. I got a few really nice ones yesterday, and I really appreciate it. A couple of you said you were going to mention the podcast to your friends. That's awesome. I really appreciate it. You can find us on Facebook, on Instagram. I do a lot of posts there on different scores and quotes and stuff, all related to golf. And then definitely subscribe to the podcast. And we also broadcast all our podcasts on YouTube, so you can find us there, on SoundCloud, so you can find us there. And we also do live on Facebook on Mondays, going over all the data and reviewing sort of how the tournament champion won. So any of that sounds interesting, please jump on with us. We'd sure love to have you. Until next time, this is Aaron Stewart saying better data always means better golf. Thanks. Woo! All right. Okay, folks. So, whoo! All right. So that was it. So that's essentially a podcast. It was like 21 minutes recording. And so now I'm just going to edit it. So I'm going to bring up the screen here. I'll get off the back cam and we'll bring up the screen and we'll just keep going. So here's the screen. Oops, that doesn't really help, does it? Does that work? Can you see that better? Let me see if I can make this a little bigger. All right, so looks like my kids are on the way home. My wife and kids are on the way home from they went to the zoo today. So that's fun. Okay, so I'm going to move some stuff out of the way. You can't see it because it's the live broadcast, but I'm going to move some stuff out of the way. Okay, so what we've got here is the screen. I'm going to unmute now everything. So now I just need to piece it together. I kind of showed you how to do this. This is a much simpler way to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to do it again. So I've got essentially the main part of the podcast here, my little intro tease right here. I'm going to go through and edit these. So the first thing I want to do is noise reduction. If you remember the 3 things we do. So I'll go in and grab this little section right here. I'll go up to Effect, Noise Reduction. I will grab a profile of that noise, which it's got now. I will go ahead and decrease the size of the screen by using this little tool up here. Is really cool. So I can get everything into it. This audio is actually quite poor. I don't even know where it recorded from because the Yeti's being used. Oh dear. Because the Yeti's actually being used for the live broadcast. So I don't know which mic was picking up this audio. I didn't even know if there was going to be audio. I'm just grateful there is. So I'll select that and then I will apply the noise reduction profile there. So it will run through it. It's 20 minutes, so it'll take it, 30 seconds or so to get this thing done. Let me see. Can I change this? This doesn't really work, does it? I need to change that. So, well, no, I guess I'm looking up here. So I'm looking at this, so I guess the screen, the picture-in-picture still works. So almost done, 3 seconds, 2, 1, awesome. Okay, so now the noise reduction on that whole part of the podcast should be done. You can see it's basically taken that line, it's removed it and made it just a nice thin line. So that's good sound right there. I'll zoom back out. So I need to apply the same noise canceling here to my little intro tease dealio. And I already got the profile, so I just run it really quick, super fast. And then while I'm there, I'll go ahead and run the next 2. So I do noise reduction, I do normalize. That cleans up the audio a little bit. Boom, that's fast. And then I also do compressor. Boom. Okay, that's done. Now I just apply those 2 here. Effect, normalize. I already did noise reduction. This one's going to take a little bit longer. Man, I wish I had something to drink. No, nothing in there? Okay. That would be good in a desert. That would be really good in a desert. Okay, normalizing almost done. So I wanted real time for everybody to see what this takes. So now compressor, boom. So I think I told somebody that I do a podcast in like 30 minutes. It's probably closer to 40, especially when it's like a 22-minute podcast. By the time you get, the thing that caused the trouble here was setting up that back camera. That was brutal. That was super brutal. But, okay, compressor. I should have gone shorter, right, for this one. But this will give you a good idea of how it all works. All right, once the compressor's done, you can see that it's going to expand it a little bit. Boom! So that's really good. So now it's going to sound a lot better. So what I need to do now is trim off the dead air. So I zoom in to do that, and then I get to the very front of the files by dragging that all the way over. And you can see I've got dead space here. Boom, scissors, trim it. Boom, trim. And look, this one still has some sort of weird profile noise there, doesn't it? It's like it didn't use the same one. So I'm going to do the noise reduction again and see if I can't get that profile to work. Okay, so it picked it up. So I'm going to zoom out here and see why that didn't work. Noise reduction should be really fast. So done. So let's zoom in now and see if that cleaned that up a little bit. Yeah, now I've got a nice straight line there, don't I? So yeah, cleaned it up really nicely. Cool. I don't know what that is, but I'm going to flatten it for fun. I don't really spend a lot of time doing this, but if I see one that's obvious, that's great. Okay, so I've got that cleaned up. I'm going to clean this dead air up. Scissors cleans it up. Good. And then I will move down a little bit. I will clean up the dead air on the back side of this file. So this is my little intro. Clean it up there. Now I will bring up the entire file and I will zoom in down here and we will zoom. Boom, boom, boom. And so you can see that there's some dead air here as well. And actually looks like kind of an ugly profile. I'm gonna do noise reduction again. Sorry folks. But when I see something like that, effect, noise reduction, get noise profile, it's got it. So then I'm going to shorten it. This is actually really good for everybody. I'm gonna select it all, boom, and then I'm going to, did I get it all? I did not. Excuse me. I'm going to select it all. No, that's brutal. Select it all. I just want this one here. I just want this one here. Okay. And then I'm going to apply it again. Hopefully it goes pretty quickly because I've already done it once. Noise reduction. With that profile, and see if it's a little bit different. I'm not going to normalize and I'm not going to compress again. Well, maybe I should. I don't know. I'm not going to. We'll take a listen when it's done and see what it sounds like. But the noise is really the big problem in all this, not the highs and lows. So, and then we're going to start piecing it together. It doesn't let me do anything until that, but this is just when we use the little yellow, boom, okay, it's done. So now I'll start piecing it together. That's this little back and forth tool here. And so I'll take that intro and put it right up against that yellow line, tells me it's there. I'll take this one there. And then I just have to go to the end here and take my outro and stick it to the end of this file. Let me see here. I don't like it when it does that. Okay. When it has that selected, that bottom was selected. Okay, so that's good. Just to kind of show you, now that it's all connected, you'll learn to really trust that yellow line. For a long time, I didn't.
Always means better golf. Thanks.
That's not very good audio, actually.
Thanks for listening to...
But whatever. It's fine. It's all in the name of that. That was we took one for the team for everybody on live.
So. Your host, Aaron Stewart.
Oops. So this one's not right. So I'm going to have to move. Uh-oh. I don't know what happened there. Something went wrong there, folks. I don't know what that is. Let's see here. I don't know what's going on there. It's like I separated it somehow or something. That's weird. Okay, we're just kind of on the fly doing this. Now I'm gonna have to check that because I don't know what in the world happened there. But I guess I split it somehow.
Access Golf, thanks for joining me today here.
Sounds all right. So we'll just see the transition here.
Aaron Stewart from Data Access Golf, thanks for joining me today here on the pod.
Okay, that's not a very good transition.
Get up.
Okay, it's teed up. Okay, fine. So now we're gonna file. Oh, actually I moved that, so I better check the end real quick. So, thanks for reminding me to do that, buddy. Yeah, see, that's all messed up now. So I need to fix that. And I didn't quite get this little beast off there, did I? So that would be a bad ending. So scissors, and then the little move area, arrows, boom. Okay, now we should be good. So file, export. And I export into a WAV file just because we're going to normalize it when it's done. And this is podcast number 161. So we'll save that out as a WAV file. Oh, no, it's 162, isn't it? It's 162. 161 was yesterday. So 162, save it. Again, I've got this little program called Normalize. I'll change this to 162. And then this one is, see, what is up with Jordan Spieth, i.e. question mark. What is up with Jordan Spieth? Love it, 162. Okay, and that's how I name them. Whatever comes to me when it shows up there, that's just what I name it. I don't There's probably a way to name them more, but after you get done with a podcast, whatever comes to your mind, what you've been talking about, what came out, just go with it because it matches what you've been, what you've been talking about. It just matches up really quickly. And that's another thing where I think that we need to trust ourselves and just be creative and let it go. Okay, so now I'm going to take this Levelator program that we talked about. And I really love how Levelator works because you can basically, I know that all of mine are in documents and they all go into this, my audio files, I won't go into the same one, but Levelator will take these audio files and it will even out the volume off all the different audio files and put them to a similar level. And then we can reduce that to get the red and the yellow, where it's too loud, where it makes the speakers sort of crackly. I better reply to my wife real quick, huh? Okay, I'll hit the shower. I haven't showered yet. So Levelator is still working. So the zoo is up in Salt Lake City. It's about an hour away. And my wife has got one of the nephews, has got our little baby nephew that we watched a while back, and also a little niece, and then my daughter and son. So the 5 of them went to the zoo today. So that's pretty cool. Very, very cool. So everything's going slower, I guess, because I'm also live. So I apologize for that. I guess you'll probably can watch this 3 times the speed, which would be great. But Levelator is struggling. So is there anything else I can turn off in the meantime? Actually, I think I can turn the browsers off now. Maybe that will speed things up. Turn the browser off. I can turn Excel off. I can turn QuickTime off. I can turn Photoshop off. Maybe that will speed some things up. We'll see. Okay, looks like it's almost done. It is done. Okay, so then I'll take this output, and you need to save it out as an MP3 in order to upload it most easily. I know MP3s aren't the highest quality, but it's the easiest way to get a podcast up quickly. And after you've cleaned it up with Audacity, it's a pretty good audio. So this will bring it up, and you'll see that now it's all very similar. The
From
noise.
Data Access Golf, thanks for joining me today here on the podcast. I appreciate it.
So the sound
very,
isn't
very
as good,
much. So
obviously from the computer, but again, this is what I'm willing to do for you folks live. Okay, so I'm gonna set that, and then I'll play it again to see if we
from
take
Data
some of the
Access
lives out.
Golf, thanks for joining me today here on the podcast. I appreciate it very, very much. So we've got the Northern Trust on.
Okay, so now I can export this, export audio, and we're going to do an MP3, 162, 2, on with Jordan Spieth. Okay, exporting right now. Anyway, so I showed you how to upload them essentially on Anchor. So I'm going to download this. I'll go to Anchor. So I'll bring up, for me, I just start doing my notes on Grammarly. So I'll bring up Grammarly. I'll do my little think notes there. I'll put it all in and then upload it. So hopefully that's helpful to somebody. That's essentially how I go from the very beginning all the way down. I guess I can bring us down to here. So that's how I do it. From the very beginning of Open Up Audacity, I do a little intro, I do an outro. That's essentially the process. And I run it through Audacity to clean up the audio a little bit. If it comes from, a really good microphone, it's a much better audio than, obviously my computer just got that one and it sounds not as good as they normally do. Such is life. Hopefully for the live folks out there, it helps somebody. But until next time, thanks for joining me. Thanks for being an entrepreneur, and thanks for doing everything you do to make the world a better place. If you want to do a podcast, start a podcast. There's a lot of really cool folks out there that are helping you do that. I kind of suffered through it and learned it all on my own without any sort of course or anything, just YouTube videos and different things. But it turned out, I do it my own way. and it's easy for me now. And if that works for you, great. And if you can find a better way to do it, I want to hear about it. I don't want to keep doing it a bad way if I don't have to. So, till next time, Aaron Stewart from the Little Black Couch. Thanks.